The first item on the agenda is the, excuse me, the approval of the August 18 minutes. We're going to approve those, review and approve those for the next meeting. So that's a change in the agenda. So Shelley, if you would read the first public hearing tonight, please. First application.
Can't hear you, Shelley.
Can't.
You're on mute or can't hear you.
No.
Nope.
Shelley, are you on your iPad?
No, I'm on the
Oh.
town.
You're good.
Now we can hear you.
Now I can hear you.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that pursuant to the provisions of the zoning law of the town of Rush and sections 227(4)A and 274(B of the town law, a public hearing will be held by the planning board of the town of Rush at the Rush Town Hall, 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, 14543 via Zoom on September 15th, 2020 at 7 p.m. to hear all persons interested in the following applications. Application 2020-10P by Daniel and Lindsay Kuiper, Lindsay, requesting a special permit for an accessory apartment to an existing structure. The property is located at 50 Stony Brook Road, Rush, New York, 14543. Property is zoned residential R30.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to present as the applicant? I know all three of you are here. Any, to tell the planning board what you're proposing that we don't know already, but if you would do it for the record.
Well, I guess I'll take the lead then. We are proposing a 1,017 square foot addition to the existing house on a 4¼ acre plot of land. It sits approximately 700 feet off the road. The intention is for it to be a in-law apartment where we would live separately but equal with an adjoining entrance to the main house. The idea is that we can provide supplemental assistance to our kids, as well as hopefully supplemental assistance from our kids to us eventually. We've been working on this for a couple of years now, and we have a complete design done by Key Builders, stamped New York State plan. I've already sent in the building permit. That's where we're all going here. So we will escape the setbacks, the side setbacks, anything. We have not heard anything from any neighbors. I don't believe there's any issues that anyone has brought up. So with that, I'd like to see if anybody has any questions.
Okay, I have a question regarding, you're also planning on building a garage, is that correct?
That's part of the house, yeah. That's a single garage to.
No, but that's not part, is that part of the 1,070 feet?
No.
No, so it's a garage, and you don't show on the plans the drive, you're gonna have to extend the driveway to get out to the garage. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. The garage is not part of the living space, and I looked into that, and that's actually by, I don't know if it's code or if it's a convention, that garage is not considered living space, so.
No, I understand that. The living space was the 1,070 feet that you went and obtained variance from the zoning board of appeals because it was over the 800 square feet in the zoning law. But I was just inquiring, there is a, besides the living, the 1,070 feet, square feet, there is an additional 14 by 26 foot garage.
Yes,
With the
the
project.
1,000, you keep saying 1,000, but it's 1,070. It's 1,017 of
Okay.
living area. The
Okay,
garage-
1,000, I'm sorry, 1,017. But
Correct.
there's a 14 feet by 26 foot garage associated with the addition.
Correct.
Okay, and I just said, that should be showing on the plans, the driveway, because part of the zoning law is that you have to provide parking spaces for additional, I think you have to provide 2 parking spaces for additional cars. But since you have a garage, that wouldn't be needed.
I thought we showed the location of the driveway. I don't remember. All I know is that it comes off of the existing driveway, and there's a turnaround provided back by the new garage or planned garage area. for
Yeah,
our-
I saw the turnaround, but I didn't, on the site plan or the land surveyor's drawing, it didn't have the driveway being extended from the front of the house to the rear. So I'm just
Yeah,
saying, just show that on the drawing.
yeah. I'm not quite sure what drawing you're referring to. But-
Um,
I don't have firm drawings for layout of the driveway. The thought was there's a turnaround required for emergency vehicles that's been provided for under previous applications. And that's where we would come off of for the new driveway to come back to the new garage.
So you,
And additionally, with a turnaround back there too, yeah.
yeah, so you'd be coming off the east side, off the turnaround, going down the east side of the property towards the addition. John
Yeah.
wants you to show the driveway extension, I guess. That's his,
Yeah.
his request. That's all.
I thought we did that, but only in a
No, I don't see it in any of the paperwork I had. This is Todd Jewell, town engineer, so. And there was a lot of little pieces in the application rather than one kind of, comprehensive. I think it made a comment to that effect, but, that's neither here nor there.
well, that's pretty minor, actually.
right, that's all I had. I just,
Yeah, that's it.
John Morelli?
Yes. So what is the square footage of the existing house?
You know what? I'm gonna guess. I think.
2,000 or 2,200 square feet.
Okay, that's what I thought. So
Yeah.
I read through the variance granted by the Board of Appeals, the zoning Board of Appeals. The law says, the law has 2 restrictions regarding accessory apartments. One is that the total not exceed 800 square feet, and that's my understanding of what you were given a variance for. But the other one is that it not exceed 25% of the floor area of the principal dwelling. So they were talking about the expansion from 800 feet to 1,017, but in reality, 25% of the 2,200 is 550 square feet. So the zoning board granted variance allowing an increase in the maximum area, but not for the, not a variance to the 25% of the floor area of the principal dwelling. So
I'm not sure I know where that comes from. Can you please quote the town law?
do you want me to
was-
quote the town law, or do you want to quote the town law? What are you saying? I'm sorry?
I'm asking where that comes from.
That's in the
I don't recollect that. What I recollect is
section,
simply the
section-
800 square feet.
Section 120-61, accessory apartments. There's two restrictions.
120-61 says 25. Well, that sounds contradictory to what I understand. I would-
Okay, could I get excuse me, I'm butting in here, but John Mancuso, I went and looked at that today also, and my look at that 25% is that if the apartment is being created in the existing house, then it can't be more than 25%. So,
That I would agree with. That's what I remember, correct.
John Mancuso,
I'm reading it as you're talking, so I was trying to read it as well. So minimum required floor area per family. So one family dwelling with accessory apartment, 1,600. Accessory apartment, 400. But not to exceed 25% of the floor area of the principal dwelling. And in total, not to exceed 800 square feet. So, I mean, ultimately, I think it's a fair interpretation of the chairperson. If that's the position that the town has taken with respect to interpretation, I'd have to defer first and foremost to probably the zoning officer in terms of what that interpretation should be. But that could be a fair reading. But I see where Councilman Morelli or Board Member Morelli is also interpreting it to mean 25% of the floor area of the principal dwelling. So what you're saying, John, is that you need a 4,000 square foot house to have a 1,000 square foot accessory apartment. Is that effectively my rough math?
Well, yes, and no. I'm saying that is what the law says. I didn't finish my statement, so if I could continue, I wanted to continue to say, while the variance in this case appears to be incomplete, I do believe it was the intent of the zoning board to allow this variance. So, I'm concerned about precedent setting and so on and so forth. I believe, and I read Mr. Keeper's report on kind of the history of this. I believe that in view of the applicant reportedly have been given incorrect assurances by our former building inspector, Doug Barber, I am in favor of supporting this with those two things in mind, that I believe the zoning board did intend to allow a variance. And also there is a special consideration that this family has been jerked around for a while and through no fault of their own, I believe. So I just wanted to point that out. I think it's important to make these kind of distinctions in our decisions, so the next person comes down the road, they're not saying, oh, you did this for them, how about doing it for us? There were extra ordinary extenuating circumstances in this case. I support approval.
anything else, John?
Mr. Morelli, I appreciate that, but I also like to temper it with something else, is that I think in the bigger picture, parents are going to come back with their kids. And the town needs to understand this. We're not looking to create a two-family house, not at all. We're looking to come back with our kids.
Mr. Kepper, I agree, and I think that this is something that the town maybe would want to consider in terms of this law and modifications to it. But my job is to make sure the law is what we are supporting. And as I said, I think there's enough extenuating circumstances that either way, I'm willing to support it under the certain under these conditions. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate that.
Scott?
I haven't read the zoning board's position, but I would support what John Morelli said, that if the zoning board gave a variance is a variance. And I think we should probably state in our decision that our assumption is that the zoning board intended to give a variance for both aspects.
Okay. Anything else, Scott?
No.
Don?
Don, you're muted.
You're muted, Don.
About now, can you hear me?
There.
There you
I was gonna say, I agree. If the zoning board was gonna allow a variance for one part, I can't believe that they wouldn't agree with the variance for the square footage. It doesn't make sense if they read the law, and I'm sure they did, that they wouldn't be in agreement with both. And I think that we should, make sure that we state that, but I'm for this proposal.
Anything else, Don?
I see nothing. As long as the driveway is going to be shown to us, that it has good turnaround and, a good layout, that's fine.
Okay. Rick?
I agree with the rest of the board members. I support this.
Todd?
Nope, I had my comments. I support it. I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay. Amber?
I just like to make sure that whatever you put in writing, and my internet's a little off, so if I'm not sounding good, let me know and I'll turn my video off. Make sure in your decisions that it's very clear, because the zoning board of appeals, we can't assume what they would have said because a variance runs with the property. So just make sure that you're very clear in your statements. That's all. Thanks, John.
John Mancuso?
I have no additional comment.
Is there any significance to gentleman here wearing a Renegade shirt? Should we be worried? I'm only kidding.
Okay. I'll declare the hearing closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to reopen the hearing. I use it. Anybody from the audience, the public, if they have any questions, comments, if they would please state their name and address for the record, I'd appreciate it. Hearing none, I declare the hearing closed. Thank you. We'll be making the decision after our next application. And with that, Shelley, would you please read the next hearing announcement?
Notice is hereby given that pursuant to the provisions of the zoning law of the town of Rush and sections 27(4)A and 27(4)B of the town law, a public hearing will be held by the planning board of the town of Rush at the Rush Town Hall, 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, 14543, via Zoom on September 15th, 2020 at 7 p.m. to hear all persons interested in the following applications. Application 2019-6P by Jody Hunt requesting a special permit and site plan review for Forefront Power LLC, development of the overlay district of Werner Solar 5 megawatt alternating current photovoltaic array on 22.8 acres. The project site is approximately 116.48 acre parcel of land located at 8427 West Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, 14543. The property is zoned residential R30.
Yeah, I would like to make a correction or an addition to the application as read, that it should be site plan review and approval. It's also approval. So just add the word approval, please, Shelley. And Jody, if you would please present to the board. I think the last time we met was back in January or February. So if you would please bring the board up to date with any changes on the proposed project. I know there were some, because we got them last Friday. But for the audience and for the board members, if you would please bring us up to date.
Sure, of course. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jody Hunt, and I am a geologist and project manager with Tetra Tech. I've been working with Forefront Power and you folks for quite a while now. Like you said, the last time we met was way back in the winter. It was snowing, face masks weren't required yet. The Werner Solar Project has been going through various processes with the town of Rush for a long time now. And I do have a PowerPoint presentation, just very brief, that would walk through the updates and where we're at right now, if you would allow me to present.
Sure.
Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Jody, I just made you co-host, so did that little green button pop up on the bottom?
Let's see. And I'm going to apologize in advance, guys. It's bedtime for my 4-year-old, so.
There you go.
He wants popsicles and dinner. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so let me see if I can put this into presentation mode.
Very nice.
All right, so the proposed project location is at 8427 West Henrietta Road. I'm sure we're familiar with that by now. And like the chairman already said, it's 116.4 acre property. We are proposing to take a small portion of that, 22.8 acres, and build a community solar project. It is currently zoned R30 for residential, and there's a newly approved overlay district. Just for anybody that isn't completely sure what community solar is, anybody located within this National Grid territory will be able to subscribe to the project. And if you subscribe, you'll receive a discount on your energy bill. So for example, right now I'm subscribing to a project and I get my normal bill from my utility company, and then a 5% discount is automatically taken off of that. So I'm just, by signing up and supporting solar, I get a 5% break on my utility bill, which is helpful right now.
What?
The site plan is going to look a little bit different than previously, only because you're going to see more trees. So we haven't changed any of the array. These are south-facing standard solar panels. And I'm going to skip quickly through this. It is a typical solar project. Access road made of gravel like a driveway, a cement inverter pad. The equipment would be driven into the ground, no cement or concrete, with a typical 7-foot chain link fence. What has changed is this right here. And this is one of the major parts of the submittal that Forefront Power and myself made to the board, dated September 10th, I believe it was. So what we've done is just responded to your request to fully screen the project. It's a little bit hard to see in this image, but what we've done is put in 2 rows of staggered evergreen trees along the entirety of the project along West Henrietta Road, and then approximately 200 feet up both sides of the project. So those additional 1,600 feet approximately of evergreen trees are made to supplement what is already there as far as vegetation and provide full coverage. You can also see in this image, if you look closely, up by the highway to the north, we've also proposed to add some screening there as well, so that from the highway, the project will be fully screened. Are there any questions about the landscaping from the board before I go further? I know that this was a point of interest.
Quick one, Jody. How from West Henrietta Road, what's it, a couple hundred feet or in or?
Yeah, it's approximately, I want to say 200 feet from the road, from West Henrietta Road, and our inverter pad, which is in that clearing in the center of the project, is about 400 feet from the road.
And I believe he's still gonna farm that 200 feet, correct? Probably,
That,
he said.
that is our understanding. It is still Mr. Werner's property, but
Right,
yes, so there will be seasonal crops there.
But
thanks.
Jody, this is Todd. I did see in your latest submittal on Friday that you were planning on using mountain laurel and cedars kind of together.
Mhm.
The mountain laurel, what was your plan for that? How high and size wise in that? I know the 14 feet was discussed, that's in the code for the trees themselves, but the mountain laurel is more of a shrub, right?
Yeah, it
Evergreen
is.
shrub?
Yeah, that is correct. It is more of a shrub, and so we would use it to fill in lower where the red cedar did not cover, to provide coverage, for pedestrians lower down on the road. 14 feet is something that, we've provided information from a landscaped architect registered in New York State. Transplanting a 14-foot tree from nursery stock to soil in a situation like this is not the most successful way to transplant trees. Forefront Power is proposing to do that to comply with code. But in our experience, we would prefer to plant smaller trees that are not at a mature height yet and let them grow. The mortality rate of transplanting a mature tree, such as a 14-foot evergreen tree, the mortality rate is really, really high. And so replacing those trees, even if they are warranted for 2 years, as the code states or as was requested by us, may not be the best way to go, but Forefront Power is definitely willing to discuss all of these details and come up with a plan that works.
Jody, this is John Morelli. So a couple of questions. One is on the site plan, the first and second slide, and here you show that portion back by 390, but in neither of those is it really clear where that is. You indicate 40 feet. Is that 40 feet to the northern edge of the property? Is it, I guess I saw it on the other drawing, but I couldn't recall how large that opening is in the bushes and trees down there by the highway. Is this intended to fill that entire space, or what are we shielding there? What are we covering?
Correct. So from 390 there, when you're driving by, although it's at highway speeds, there was some concern from the town that there would be some visibility, which is against town code, of the project. And so Forefront Power, in collaboration with Tetra Tech's landscape architects, have gone and done a pretty detailed view shed analysis. And I believe that those documents were provided to the town as well. I don't have access to anything but the computer version of those. I don't have PDFs, but I think that Christian sent those view shed analyses. And so from 390, in the winter months, there are some gaps in the trees when the leaves are off. That's what that 40-foot double row of evergreen trees is meant to shield.
Okay, but there is area from 390 that had no plants. So that's where the 40, yeah, I'm confused. It's hard for me to say from this diagram what we're looking at. I guess I would like to see something more detailed. So right now I see, a fairly wide area along 390 that, okay, I see a tree line. You can't see my cursor, can you?
I can't. The point here is that, obviously we or Forefront are willing to add or extend that 40-foot bank of trees, but based on our visual analysis, which takes into account a motorist going the speed limit on that road, or slightly above, as some people do, that the view of the project would be completely obscured by a 40-foot double row of evergreen trees in
But-
conjunction with the vegetation that's already there.
But not year round.
Well, we're planting evergreens, and so our models are based on winter trees, so
Right.
leaf off conditions,
But
plus
I think
adding.
the question is, what you indicated was that in the winter, some of the other vegetation would be a little more transparent. That's not where you're putting the 40-foot of trees, or is it?
It's exactly where, yes. So in this image, you can see where the really thick vegetation is, and that's going to be less transparent during the winter. And you know, if based on visual or based on photographs even that we've had
Okay,
this
so
past winter.
this diagram is not the same as the first one that has the trees going around the panels, right?
The same. So here's is this the previous one that you're talking about? So
Right.
we take trees, 2 rows of trees, and go the full length of West Henrietta Road, and then
Right.
200 feet up both sides of the project.
Right.
And then if you look up in the top left corner, you've got that additional row of double or 2 rows of trees to block the view from
I
390.
see that, but this is different than that other plan you just showed us in that the trees are set back from the road. On the other one, the trees were set at the road. That was the old plan, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've moved the trees to better screen the project
Okay.
from the last time we sent you the plan set. That is correct.
So, I understand your concern about transplanting these 14-foot trees, but would be more, but you're still going with the maximum height for the panels of 12 feet. So, so I guess it's hard to say, we're look at reducing the height of the trees, because the whole idea of having the trees 2 foot taller than the top of the panels is because they're very narrow at the top. And to put
No,
a little more-
if I may, sir, our panels, if you look at the calculation sheet and the specification sheets that I submitted last week, the panels top out at about 8.2 feet in height.
I see that. But it does say that they will be, there's another part of the application that talks about them not exceeding 12 feet in height. So
Because that's the code. That's the code, and we are saying that we will not exceed the code, which is 12 feet, but we are staying at 8.2, and those are the specification sheets that we've submitted to the town. That's the equipment specs that we're using for this project. We would have to add an entire extra or 2 extra rows in portrait of panels to
Okay, well,
each.
that's fine. That's a little confusing to me, because it did look like, I did see the 8.2 feet, but then I saw something that said 12 feet. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe some places you were going to have them higher than others. I wasn't sure.
No, sir. And I don't think Forefront Power wants to spend the additional money on those thousands of extra panels to get to
Okay,
12.
well, let me ask you this then. How, I'm sure if you planted a 2-foot tree, it'd survive better than a 14-foot tree. But, if you came down, say, to 12 feet, what would that have any significant impact on the survival?
Yes and no. So what you really want to do is you want to transplant a tree. And I'm sure that folks know this from transplanting trees in their own yards or transplanting anything. You're going to get a better survival rate transplanting a seedling versus a mature specimen of anything. Again, I'm a geologist, I'm not a biologist, but
I agree.
having spoken, our landscape architect and engineer has recommended 8-foot trees. And his reasoning is that an 8-foot tree will have a better chance of survival, and it will suffer less trauma and therefore grow faster and actually perform better over the long term versus planting a 14-foot tree where it is much more likely to die. And if it does live, it will have significant root trauma or may have root trauma and will not perform as well.
I understand, Jody, and I understand that you're a geologist, but terms like much more likely, less likely, more, they're helpful, but in other words, I'm saying, you know, if they were 12-foot trees instead of 14-foot trees, or 10-foot trees instead of 14-foot, what are we talking about in terms of the impact? Like you agree, if we planted seedlings, it probably would have the highest rate, but it would take 20 years to get high enough.
Right.
So I guess that's the kind of information that, you know, I don't know if this is something, the law is pretty specific on this, but even to consider it, we'd have to have, I think, some more information regarding what we're talking about in terms of tree mortality and so on and so forth.
Okay, I can't provide that just simply because I don't know.
Correct.
I would have to talk to our landscape architect and get those numbers for you. But I would like to say, I mean, Forefront Power, and Christian, he's on the phone too. He can jump in anytime, but they have agreed to plant and warranty the 14-foot trees. It's just that may not be in the best interest of all parties involved. So it's negotiable, and we can hopefully provide you with some better idea of mortality rates. I just can't.
I just want to, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, if, you know, we were going to consider anything else, it would be helpful to have that type of information.
I understand.
I'm done.
Okay, Jody, I had a question, since we're on trees, on page 1 of 4 of the response to comments that we got on Friday, it mentions that the mountain laurel would best be planted on the north and west side of the double rows to provide some level of shading from the red cedar. So is that 2 rows of red cedar or double rows of red cedar plus the mountain laurel?
No, sir. It's 1 row of cedar and then the row of mountain laurel, with the intent that the cedar would shade the mountain laurel and help it to perform better at a little bit of a lower elevation. Does that make sense? 2 rows total.
So that was my question, John, to her. They're not going to plant 14-foot mountain laurels.
Well, I didn't think so, but
Yeah, that's why I was. Yeah.
but that's not what it says here. It says,
Yeah.
it sounds like it says that a mountain laurel is in addition to the double rows of cedar, red cedar. Okay, what else was I gonna? So how high is the mountain laurel going to be, or how tall?
I guess what it comes down to is that we are using the mountain laurel to fill in what the red cedar won't at its base. So, you know, typical nursery stock for mountain laurel, and again, we would want, and we were required to have a 2-year warranty on it. I don't have an exact height for you, and if those are numbers that you need, I can surely get them for you probably tomorrow.
Okay, what's the center to center distance for the red cedar plantings?
Yeah,
Like on West Henrietta Road?
The red cedars, I believe that our spec for planting those trees as required would be 20 feet off center to allow them to grow and spread and fill in while still allowing room for the mountain laurel.
So between the two, or between 2 red cedar, there would be a mountain laurel, or more than 1 mountain laurel?
We have it laid out as 1 here on the plan just to fill in down at the base.
Okay. Scott?
Well, I was wondering, have you used this sequence of red cedar mountain laurel anywhere else? It'd be awfully nice to see a picture of it.
We have, and actually this came from a model that was used in the city of Ithaca around a fairly well-known battery storage company's site. I don't have pictures of it right now. I just don't, I don't have that available to pull up right now without shuffling through everything. Again, I can provide pictures. I'm hoping. I might have to drive down there.
Okay, anything more on trees or the buffering landscape, Scott, before I'll go on to the next board members, and then I know John Morelli has, not numerous questions, but he has
No,
a bunch of questions on other items.
I'm okay for now.
Okay, Don?
I'm not sure, but if red cedar is equal to what I have planted at home, which is a green giant, you'll have best if you plant them at 4 or 5 years old. They'll have the best regrowth and livability. It's going to be really difficult to plant a 14-foot cedar and not have some dieback and have dead branches, dead leaves. And, it depends on the season. If we have a very dry spring and summer, somebody's going to have to water them weekly, if not daily, or they will die. I hate to break to everybody, but you're better off planting a 5 or 6 year old tree and letting it grow a foot each year, and it will grow both a foot high and a foot wide. The mountain laurel, I believe, is a bush, which is going to get no more than probably 5 feet tall, which is really good to fill in the bottom wherever these don't fill in. But I have a feeling that, planting 14-foot trees, you could have 50% mortality and be having to replant them just so that people know what the possibility is. That's all I've got.
Okay, Rick?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, I'll go back to John Morelli.
Yeah, so,
John, oh,
Yeah.
it's Amber. Can I just ask
Oh.
a quick question, if that's okay? I
Sure.
apologize. And my video's off because my Wi-Fi. Don Sweet, when we walked, and Todd,
Mhm.
200 feet on the south side, I'm having a hard time visualizing for where Don, we said the cars wouldn't see it anymore.
Well,
Can you recollect that 200 foot? Does that sound like about the right amount?
because we're 200 feet before it starts, we're 200 feet back off the road, and then there'd be another 200 feet. So we're really 400 feet from the roadside. It would be someplace where those large trees are in the hedgerow. I'm not exactly sure exactly where, but that is quite a ways back.
Right.
And I thought there was a stone something going on there too. We kind of went
Right.
beyond that.
Yeah, I
a little
just don't
bit.
see it on there.
Yeah, and
Well, okay, the stone fence is on the other. Jody, if you could bring back the one with the the stone fence is that line,
yep, the dark line. Yep.
yeah, to the south. So it's almost to the end of, it's not quite, the vegetation buffer is not quite to the end of the stone wall.
Right. Our concern was when we walked it was the cars traveling north on 15. When they hit a certain point, we wanted to make sure it was far enough to the west on that southern boundary. I just didn't see a mark where we had hopefully located that. That's all. And
If
my
I
only
may,
other question would be, sorry, Jody, on the mountain laurel, if you're looking at planting them 20 foot on center and you've got a 4 or 5 foot mountain laurel growing between 20 foot on center, I guess no matter how much dieback, I don't think you'll get a little bit of buffering, but not that much unless you planted a whole row in front of them. And I think the point of the code was to have that double row of trees to hopefully fill that in. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, so if I may, the species of trees here, what we were trying to do is find species of trees that are native to the area that we know grow well here and that have the best survival rate at 14 feet transplanting. These two species are the ones that have the best chance of doing well after being transplanted at 14 feet. If we can use other things to fill in, that would be fine. We may not be able to transplant them at 14 feet and have the same survival rate. Does that make sense? We're trying, we want to work with you. We want to find a way to screen this project to make the town happy, to satisfy code, but also in a way where we're going to have the smallest amount of tree mortality. And after that 2-year warranty is up, we want green trees screening the project, not brown dead twigs growing around it. So we would like to discuss this with you, and we can work on different species and different heights, and whatever you need is, within reason is okay. But I think what we're saying here is we're willing to put in trees. We're offering this now as a point of discussion.
Jody,
John, can I just throw it out to Don? Don, other species, I mean, I can go to my landscape people too, obviously, and run through all the species. Soils have a lot to do with it. Obviously, it's open, wind, this, that. The code says what it is. That's what we agreed on. That's what they signed up for. We want it to work, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Are there other trees that I planted 3 hemlocks in my shed in the back here, and they're under a canopy of oaks that are like 60 to 70 feet high, and they're already 20 feet. So, and they're a little wispy because they're under the other canopy, but this would be out in the open with the sun, which is what pine trees love, right? As long as the soil is dry, dry enough, and they don't get too dry, but they like to drain. So from what I know about trees, I've planted pines, they're over 40 feet in my side yard, con colors, I've got all kinds here. So I don't know if there's other varieties. The mountain laurel to me is a shrub. It's never going to grow 14 feet high or 12 or whatever. It may fill in the ground. Yeah, obviously it will get a little wider. Maybe it'll grow 5 feet high, right? But I don't know. I mean, we can kick this around some more. We don't want to spend the whole night on it, but it's obviously a concern for the town, and screening was one of the focal points of the that we really spent a lot of time on in the secret process too. So I think we need to, get it right. Maybe have some more input. I mean, what do you think?
Well, we have to have an evergreen that's, I think a green giant or a cedar is foremost. I'd be more apt to, at my place, I've done just one row of green giants that were 4 foot apart, and you can't see through them. They're now 15 feet tall, and I don't need a second row of anything. They are thick, and they are you can't crawl through them because I put them so close together.
I have 2 of those also. Yeah, you're right. They grow almost a foot a year. They're arborvitaes, really, but they do the job, right?
Yep.
So if I may cut in here, I guess what I would ask the board to consider is that the species here, as long as it is an evergreen and as long as forefront is willing to work with the town and come up with a species list that works. If potentially this could be considered a condition of the approval, we are obviously offering to plant trees and to work with you on the best solution possible to screen this project. And I am asking you to consider this sort of an act of good faith that we would work with you on this and develop a species list or a screening plan that works for the landowner and for Forefront and most importantly for the town.
Jody, this is John Morelli again. You stated that you'd be willing to put in 2 rows of 14-foot trees, but want to discuss other options as well because you think there might be some good reasons to do that. As far as I'm concerned, that commitment that you would be willing to do that, if that's what we insisted upon, and that, you would also provide a 2-year guarantee, certainly satisfies my sense of comfort in terms of moving forward and, looking at some of this other information we talked about in terms of, die off and Don mentioned other trees and, I feel comfortable that you're going to do what needs to be done, and we're going to learn something in the process. So I'm comfortable.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I don't know how the other board members feel about getting a final landscape plan or just a landscape plan with numerous species that they can choose from. And Todd, I don't know if your landscape people have any. I mean, we certainly could condition our approval on Forefront providing that landscape plan and the species, but are we gonna make them 14 feet exactly how far on center? Or, now we don't have 2 rows of evergreens per se. If I'm reading Jody or listening to Jody correctly, we have 1 row of evergreens plus the mountain laurel. Now I know the mountain laurel is an evergreen, but it's not the same evergreen as the red cedar or the green giant or some other evergreen.
But correct me if I'm wrong, did you not say that you would agree to the 2 rows of 14-foot trees?
Yes, Forefront Power has agreed to 2 rows of 14-foot trees. Whichever species yes, we have agreed to comply with that. And so, Forefront has absolutely. The species can be negotiated to make people the most comfortable.
Okay, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think I asked you, based on the information you sent last Friday, you mentioned along the north side and the west side by West Henrietta Road, you were going to have one row of red cedar and then the mountain laurel. So that's not 2 rows of red cedar.
No, we're proposing 2 rows total because what we're proposing is to screen the project in compliance with code so that it is not visible in compliance with code. And using these 2 species, the best way to do that is to plant 1 row of red cedar that will grow taller and then a second lower, more shrubby row that'll fill in the blanks down lower. If we switch to something like blue spruce, which I also wouldn't recommend transplanting at 14 feet, we would plant 2 rows of blue spruce. But yes, Forefront is agreeing to comply with the code and to comply with that request to plant 2 rows, if required, of 14-foot high trees.
Okay, but what you're proposing tonight, or at least preliminarily, is 1 row of red cedars, 20 feet on center, and then a mountain laurel shrub in between the 2 cedars.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct. That is what we have submitted. Yes.
Okay. But I thought you just told John Morelli that you're going to plant 2 rows of evergreens. So are you considering the mountain laurel an evergreen?
The mountain laurel is an evergreen. It
No, I
will
know
like-
that, but
Yes, it is. It's just a shrub, John. Yeah, it's not a tree.
okay.
We can change the mountain laurel to whichever species satisfies the board. And what I'm saying is, we are willing to screen this project to comply with the town's wishes.
Okay. Okay, John, I'll turn it back to you, Morelli.
Okay, so, yeah, overall, I'm pretty satisfied with this submittal. I mean, we still have to work out the trees and stuff, and I am appreciative that you guys have specifically addressed the items in the planning board resolution. It was nice that you did that. I do have a few concerns about the decommissioning plan and the vegetative management plan. Regarding the solar decommissioning plan, attachment B, it says it includes an approval sign off for the planning board. It's item 8.0, acknowledgement and approval. I do not believe that the planning board should sign this. I believe that approval of a special permit will acknowledge that the plan exists, but I believe the condition of the site at the time of decommissioning will need to be taken into consideration before any approvals are given. So that's one recommendation. Another is item 6.
Well, let Jody answer that, just if you could, maybe, or Kristen.
I'm going to defer to Christian on this one. The decommissioning plan wasn't done by my company. You can see on the letterhead, it's a different document. Christian can best respond to those questions.
Thanks, Jody. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, great. John, not a problem. We can remove the acknowledgement and approval paragraph there in the agreement. Could you just repeat the second part? I know you started by saying receiving approval from the planning board basically would include the approval of the decommissioning plan, and then you continued with something else. Could you just repeat that?
Yeah, I'm saying that my interpretation is that if the planning board, when the planning board approves your special permit, it acknowledges your decommissioning plan. But I believe that the condition of the site at the time, 25 years, 30 years down the road, will need to be taken into consideration before any final decisions are made about how it needs to be decommissioned. I mean, we could say now that, yeah, this is what needs to be done when it's decommissioned, but really a lot of that's going to depend on the condition of the property at the time, no?
I'm not really sure how the condition of the property is going to change much, being that it's going to be maintained over the course of the 25 years from the maintenance plan. So, I mean, once the vegetation grows, that'll be maintained annually, several times a year as needed, and then the equipment will just be removed as described in the plan itself. I'm not sure what you're asking as far as changes to this. Are you asking for certain language to be changed in the decommissioning plan?
Well, I'm saying that by the planning board approving the special permit application, it is essentially acknowledging and approving the plan as you are presenting it, including the decommissioning plan. But to sign a specific affidavit within that document saying that we acknowledge it and approve it seems unnecessarily prescriptive to me at this point. Now, John Mancuso, our town attorney, is here and may have some thoughts on this. This is what my review of it, these are the concerns that I had. One of the concerns.
Yeah, from my perspective, the condition, so the planning board's approval of the special permit and or the site plan will necessarily factor into that evaluation, the adequacy of the decommissioning plan, but the plan itself is a separate component of the solar law. And so in addition to meeting all of the necessary conditions and the conditions of site plan approval and special permit approval, the code separately delineates the example decommissioning plan as Appendix 1 to the law, in addition to requiring under subsection, it's paragraph 17 on page 7, the specifics of the decommissioning that must be undertaken. And so to some extent, John, I believe you're right. I mean, the condition of the site in 25 years may very well dictate to some extent the specific steps that the applicant is going to need to take to decommission, but the end result is I think what is most operative. So as long as the town engineer and the board and myself collectively are satisfied that the plan meets the end goal, which is to restore that site to its pre-construction condition, that's really, I think, what we're looking for, in addition to the security being provided to accomplish that. And Todd, if you have anything to add to that, please do.
No, I agree with that, John, and I think that's part of what we discussed during the secret process. I did have a separate item, which was to do with the cost estimate in the salvage value, which I didn't believe should be included in the letter of, as a credit, which I had mentioned in the past, but we can get to that next. And I think John might have something on that also. But the substance of the plan, I think, meets the intent of the law, and that's what we agreed on. So, but I don't believe the planning board should have to sign anything. And I think Christian already said, John, that he would take it out. So if he strikes it from the plan, I think we're fine.
So
Does that make sense to you?
what's the conclusion?
Conclusion is he's going to take, you're not going to sign anything. He's going to change the report to remove the signatures.
And the approval will be inherent in the approval of the overall plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Item 6.0 states that financial security may be required if requested by the planning board. I think that should be, that we should do this, definitely. And I think that, again, our town attorney needs to be involved in this piece of it. I was just a little alerted by the term may. I didn't want to skip over that and not make that request. Any comments on that?
Yeah,
Okay,
John, not all towns that we've worked with require decommissioning plans, so that's the reason for the word may.
okay. Another, in the decommissioning cost analysis, this is the attachment to the attachment to attachment B. I'm shooting from the hip here, but just looking through the numbers, to me, some of the disassembly cost appear to be too low, and some of the salvage cost appeared to be too high. And I'm just thinking we'll need a verification maybe from Todd's firm or from an outside firm for me to feel more comfortable with those numbers. Okay. And
Okay.
finally, what?
Yeah, and I didn't agree with, I don't think this, like I said, the salvage value, because they're kind of taking that as a credit. And once we get to the final agreement on what you're gonna hold as a town, I mean, John Mancuso can speak to this too, but basically like a letter of credit that you're gonna hold in escrow. for when the time comes to do it, initiate the plan, take the system apart, put it back to, pasture or whatever he wants to use it for, farmland. We'll have to discuss that total number because I think it should be bigger than what's shown. That's all.
And, all right, the final
I'm
piece.
sorry, John, can I just comment on that, please? Todd, is your firm willing to or review this? I mean, we had a third-party engineer prepare this cost analysis for us, based on their knowledge, and this is something that they do regularly. Do you have somebody within your firm who can take a look at this cost analysis and verify whether or not they can agree or disagree? And if they disagree, can they provide what they believe to be correct?
Yeah, we can go through it all. I see he used means. It says here down at the bottom, derived from means of the site estimating manual. I can take the plans. Yeah, we have a whole internal group that just does CMPM, that's what they do. So yeah, I could give it to them.
I mean, if you had,
Okay.
they had an independent firm look at it too, we might look at that. I did not realize that was done by a separate independent firm, although now that I reflect back, I'm just saying when I see it's going to cost $3 to do something, it just sounds too little. When I see, we're going to get $95,000 back on something, it seems too much. I don't have an educated skill. This is just kind of something that I was concerned about when I saw it. So to the extent it could be verified, that would be good.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, finally, and Christian and Jody, I don't know what this sounds like to you, but I really have liked, and I really like the work you did. These to me are not big items, but regarding the vegetative maintenance plan, attachment D, it stated that the contractor will conduct on-site activities, including inspection and maintenance as needed, approximately 2 to 3 times per year. Yet, the indicated frequency in your scope of work provided indicates no less than 4 times a year for a number of different items. So I guess it would be good to have a specified minimum number of site visits, that a minimum number that would be expected. And
Are you looking for a response to that, sir, or an updated vegetative maintenance plan?
well, both. No, not a it in your plan has a scope of work, and it says you're going to look for this 4 times a year. You're going to look for this 4 to 8 times a year. You're going to look at it, and then the preceding piece said overall the inspection maintenance will be 2 to 3 on the average, 2 to 3 times a year. It just was inconsistent, and I thought we should at least have just some minimum. We will be out there twice a year to look at this, and this, or something to that effect, because approximately
Understood.
2 to 3 times a year could mean 8 times one year and no times the next year. So
Understood. So I can clarify the language in there. Given the requirements for maintaining these new evergreen trees, the first 2 years or 3 years, there will be more visits. And we will put a minimum number in there to satisfy that request. But it comes down to weather, essentially. If there's a lot of snow and we need to plow the access road more often, or if in the summer there's a lot of rain and it's really warm and we have a cooler August and the grass grows, we come out to trim and mow more often than if we have a nasty hot summer and all the grass is brown. So It really is weather dependent, but we can put more specific language in there for you.
Thank you. That's all.
Sure.
That's all I have, John.
Jody, I didn't mean to stop your screen share, but your heads are so little. So if you need to reshare it, that's totally fine.
I'm all set. I think you guys have seen this project for 2 years now.
Well, I'm not sure that long, not us.
It only seems it.
Maybe. Scott,
No, I have nothing else.
Don,
I'm good, thank you.
Rick,
I have nothing else.
Amber? Amber? Oh, she can't hear me.
I'm good. Thank you. I
Todd?
can hear you now.
Okay.
I'm good. Thanks.
I'm good.
Todd?
I'm good. Thanks.
John Mancuso?
Feel like.
I have nothing further at this time.
Anybody from the public audience? If you would please state your name and address. If you have any questions or comments. Okay, going once, going twice. I'll declare the hearing closed then. Thank you. Okay, shall we go back to the access? Oh, I want, well, when we open this, I am going to open this back up. Just, I wanted to read something that John Mancuso sent to me, and I'm not sure, I sent it this afternoon out to the other board members. And this is regard the seeker resolution for forefront special permit and site plan application. Let me take a glass of water. Or a sip of water. Because the town board undertook a coordinated review of the project under seeker, they adopted a negative declaration concerning the project. No further seeker review is required by the town planning board as an involved agency. The planning board may review, our review is required by the town planning board as an involved agency. Wait, did I read? Okay, no further seeker review is required by the town planning board as a involved agency. The planning board may review the merits of the application for special permit and site plan and render a determination in the planning board's discretion without undertaking any additional seeker review. I just wanted to enter that for the record. And I'll declare the hearing closed. And if we go back to the first application, and unless there's any other comments, go back to the first application on tonight's agenda. All right, it's the Lindsay or Keeper special permit application for an accessory apartment at 50 Stony Brook Road. We did receive the affidavit that is part of the requirement today. And is there any discussion by the planning board members regarding the application? Okay, I'll make a motion that this board has examined application number, if I can find it.
I'll give it to you.
Application 2020-10P for the construction or building of an accessory apartment at 50 Stony Brook Road in the town of Rush. And that the proposed project is a type 2 action under the New York State seeker ordinance or law and requires no further environmental investigation by this board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? You would raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll make a motion that we grant approval or grant the special permit for the accessory apartment at 50 Stony Brook Road, conditioned upon the applicant supplying the town with the drawing of the proposed driveway to the proposed garage. And also that we're taking this, we're reviewing this special permit with the understanding that the zoning board of appeals issued a variance for the 1,017 foot square foot addition, which is more than the 1,800 maximum specified in the zoning law. And that they also, when they did this, we were under the understanding that they probably also granted or meant to grant a variance for the 25%, that the proposed addition is not going to be more than 25% of the existing square footage of the existing residence.
Did you say 800 feet or 1,800 square feet?
800,
800, right?
right. I don't know, John, is there a better way of saying that? John Mancuso? You're
muted, John.
Can you read that back one more time? I'm just going to type it out. I'm a visual learner.
I have no idea what I said. I don't have it written down. That the planning board is considering or believes that the variance granted by the zoning board of appeals for the addition of the accessory apartment at 1,017 square feet, when the code requires a maximum of 800 square foot, that the zoning board also probably considered the variance for the addition being more than the 25% of the existing square footage of the existing residence.
Yeah, I would say that everything you said, I think is accurate, in terms of the last component, that the variance granted by the zoning board was inclusive of providing a variance from the floor area as contained in the bulk regulations, since it is the same provision.
Okay, but we wanted to say specifically that we believe.
Yeah.
That it's we believe.
It's we believe that the zoning board of appeals, okay.
I would say, would a fair characterization be that you interpret that decision to mean that?
To include the 25%.
Correct.
Right, that the variance was both for the larger than 25% and larger than 800 square feet.
Yes.
So how's the best way to say that, John?
I would say that the planning board interprets the zoning board decision as being inclusive of both the 25% floor area and the 800 and the in excess of 800 square feet.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, on to forefront. Does the board feel we can act on this project tonight, or do they feel they need more information regarding the landscape plan and the few items that John Morelli mentioned or is concerned about? Or do you feel we can condition our approval on the applicant Forefront presenting a landscape plan approvable to the town engineer for the proper buffering as specified in the town solar law? That's just a question. That's no.
Yeah, I think we can, because I think the other items like the approval for the sign off on the various
Decommission.
decommissioning and the vegetative plan. I think that we could specify all that, but with regard to the screening, I guess I would see that as something we would condition upon mutual agreement. I mean, we would need to work with Todd, but also with the applicant with respect to coming to something we're in agreement with, no?
My view is that we should not give Todd full ability to approve the landscaping plan. That ought to come back to this board.
I agree.
I would love Todd to work it out with.
Okay, well then I don't think we can go ahead with approval tonight. Because if we want that plan to be reviewed by both Todd and the board, then I think we need that plan back in our lap or in our office to review it. And Todd needs to review it.
My issue is this. I think this landscaping is a fundamental issue. This is our first trial going through this. We admittedly don't know much about what we need, but I think we need to learn more about it and see more options. And I would just feel better if we reserved that right as a planning board. I'm willing to listen to other opinions.
No, I don't disagree with you, Scott. I mean, I'd rather see a landscape plan with the type of plannings proposed and agreed upon both by the board and by the town engineer. I think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Excuse me, Chairman, can I cut in here? Or is
Sure.
is my time up? Would you consider adding that as a condition to the approval?
Well,
Forefront has offered to comply and is, I mean, Forefront is agreeing to comply with the town code and is more than willing to work with you and our landscape architects and to work with the varying opinions on what species are preferred and would appreciate that being a good faith effort and having that be a condition of approval.
well, I think that's what I originally proposed, Jody.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure all the board members.
I'm okay with approving based on that condition. I'm just saying I wouldn't want it to rest solely with Todd at this point.
Me too.
I think that condition, if the condition is for the board to further review the adequacy of the landscaping plan, it is as if the board is still maintaining jurisdiction over the approval in the first instance. And so it's not really, the approval subject to a condition such as that it will be an adequate landscaping plan as approved by the town engineer. Then the board has obviously finished its review and it's going to the engineering for further study. You may as well just hold this open and then get the plan you wish to review, and then your condition may very well be mitigated or modified based on what the planning board's ultimate conclusion is to that plan. Because it sounds, if I'm hearing you correctly, and I don't mean to speak for you, Scott, but it sounds like you want to approve and understand more fully what the landscaping plan is going to look like.
I do, yes.
Yeah, and so do I. I mean, I think it's a learning process as well for us. What is the downside of us not approving it tonight for the applicant?
From my perspective, or I guess from the applicant's perspective?
Applicant.
The applicants. If we said we want to work with you to, get this landscaping piece done to our mutual satisfaction, but we couldn't approve it until we did that. What's the downside for you, Jody?
I'm going to defer to Christian. It is ultimately his pocketbook here.
Yeah, John, nothing comes to mind as the downside. Either way, we still need to provide a plan that is satisfactory to the planning board and approved by the planning board, whether it's a condition of an approval tonight. It just sounds better when when we can go back and say, yeah, we received a conditional approval. But if the board wants to hold on that approval until we get a further developed plan that is more in line with and more understanding of what we're trying to propose here and satisfies the conditions, then that's what we'll do.
What, Chris?
At the end, yeah, John, at the end of the day, really what we're trying to, we understand what the code is at 14 feet, but, we've spoken to some professionals in the landscaping field, and there's some concerns, and we're just using this as an opportunity to voice those concerns. We don't want to go and plant, a whole bunch of trees here that are going to die off one day, and then now we're left with nothing. That's just that nobody benefits from that. So we want to make sure that we're trying to provide something here that for the life of the project.
I just wanted to add, I feel that the applicant's acting totally in good faith. It's not the issue, and I have very much optimism that we can come to an agreeable resolution. Because it's our first time through and we don't know a lot about it, I would hate to give that responsibility up as a planning board.
So guys, next steps moving forward. Christian, are you going to go back to the drawing board with Tetra Tech, come up with some options? Yes, provide those for review. I mean, this is where it's going. They're not going to, if they don't decide to approve this conditionally or otherwise tonight, you have to do that, like you said, either way. And then I can look at those with my landscape people, obviously, and then give the board the opportunity to decide what they like and, vet it some more. I think that's what I'm hearing from the board, which makes a lot of sense. It's the first time through, and we're seeing a shrub.
The other items that John Morelli also.
Yep, the cost estimate review.
Yeah, those could all be done too. So that we would, I'll put this out, we will be tabling the application for the special permit and site plan approval based on those items, and you can state them, John, for those five. You had about 5 items that needed to be completed, and also the landscape plan with the different type of vegetation.
Right.
Is there anything else? I mean, we'll make a motion, but is there anything else that needs to be added?
Well, I just wanted to add more about vegetation. I want to go back a little bit more to the fundamentals, and that is, our goal certainly is at some point in time in the future, there will be vegetation which blocks all the areas in which we're planting it. But it's not clear to me, we talk about 20 feet on center or 10 feet if it's on center between, 2 double rows. It sounds to me like it's not, whatever we do is not going to block immediately the panels, right? Because there's going to be space between these things. Even if we plant 14-foot trees, it still will be space between them, I presume. So I think we should have a clear understanding as at what point in the future, is it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? At what point do we expect these things to really fully block the view of the panels? And that's not clear to me.
This is a good question, Scott. The idea of the 14-foot trees and the double row, minimum double row, for the purpose of providing complete screening was in part to address that. Now, if you can't transplant 14-foot trees, that's an issue. Yeah, we need to figure this out. The way the law reads now is complete screening at the time of installation. And part of that came around, I have photographs of places around the town that we have the little transmission testing area there on 15, the storage facility also on 15. These are places that we have written into the approval that they be screened. And the screening is pathetic. It's a few little bushes and trees that are half alive and so on and so forth. So the idea was to make an effective law, an effective requirement in terms of getting these things screened. The other thing is you plant a tree, it doesn't grow for the first couple of years, you know, it takes some time to acclimate. So that's an issue as well. And, but I agree, yeah, we need to learn more about it. If we were to, John, are you suggesting tabling this tonight? Or
Correct.
so if we were to table it, is it something that we would be able to revisit at the next planning board meeting? We
I
wouldn't
would
have,
hope so, yes.
yeah, we wouldn't have to wait another month after that or anything like that.
No,
Okay. And
well, as long as we got
Right.
the information we needed, of course.
right, we're in agreement.
Excuse me, Chairman, may we have a meeting, some kind of virtual meeting or an in-person meeting to discuss what would be appropriate with the board? What I want to avoid is taking up a lot of time and funds, coming up with another landscaping plan that may not be acceptable. I think that it might be a good idea to have an open discussion and come up with one together that would be acceptable to all parties involved.
Could we have one or two members
My,
of the planning board?
you could have 2 members of the board as well as the town engineer. That would be legally compliant. And so I would defer to the board as to which 2 members you feel would be appropriate to undertake that meeting, but I certainly have no problem with that.
And can you have a town board member too, Amber?
Yes, you just can't have you can't have a
Yeah,
quorum of
can't-
any one of the boards. So it has to be two or less.
Just if
Two
you,
less planning board members, but plus Todd, plus Amber, perhaps, plus.
That would be permissible.
Okay, which 2 would like to participate? Don, do you want to participate?
Yeah, if, that's, sure, depending on what time it is, I'd be more than happy to.
Scott or John, or, I mean, I'm,
Don may be more knowledgeable, but I'll back up Don if he can't attend.
okay. John Morelli, and I'll back you up, John.
Okay,
So
I'm out there if somebody needs me.
Todd and Amber,
I don't
she
know.
left.
we lost Amber.
Her internet's been in and out all night.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, Jody, so that we could get together.
Thank you. It's appreciated. We want to come up with a solution that is mutually acceptable.
Mhm, mhm.
How do you want Jody to get in touch with us? Should she?
Probably through Shelley, and then Shelley or Jody could, I don't know, Jody may not have all of our email address, probably through Shelley, and then Shelley sending it out to all of us. And then we'll make a determination of who can make the meeting. If you could give us possibly a couple different dates and times. Don, what's better for you, night meeting or?
Right now, evenings, my hours are getting less, but some afternoons, I'd have to know in advance, you know, I can plan around things.
Okay, Amber, I don't know if you heard us.
I think she's struggling to hear every
Okay.
4 words, she said, but I just texted her and said that Jody will reach out to Shelley to get a meeting scheduled.
We volunteered her to participate
It's
Yeah,
called
she couldn't
voluntold.
sorry, Amber, if you can hear me.
because she didn't have enough to.
Yeah.
I didn't, I just said, you know.
Mr.
she was
Morelli, you
welcome
want to make a
participate.
motion to table?
Yeah,
With
having.
your right-
What is this application?
It's application 2019-06P.
Having reviewed application 2016,
No, 2019, did I say?
2019
2019-06P.
-06P. The planning board resolves to to table this, this application and until a number of issues are resolved. Do you want me to identify those issues, John?
Yes, yes, so they can work on,
Okay, so number one is the landscaping plan, the selection, location, placement of trees to provide screening for the facility. There's one. Another is removal of the approval sign off for the planning board in the
on the decommission plan.
decommissioning plan, Appendix B. Another is to accept that the financial security in item 6, 6.0 is in fact requested by the planning board. Another is in the decommissioning cost analysis that the applicant work with our town engineer to provide an assessment of the disassembly and salvage cost associated with the decommissioning cost analysis. And finally, that the applicant provide a minimum number of visits per year as part of the vegetative maintenance plan.
Okay, just a question on the financial security. Were we gonna have John Mancuso and Todd determine what that amount is? Or has that already been done?
I don't believe it's been done. John can speak to that.
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
subject
so
to
we're-
yeah, under the code, under the town, under the solar law, the appropriateness of the decommissioning plan, including the form of security needs to be reasonably acceptable to both the town attorney and the town engineer, so we can certainly work together to evaluate what the applicants provided.
Okay, have they already provided that to you, John? Okay, so they're gonna need to provide that to John Mancuso and Todd Ewell, the amount of the financial security for the decommission plan.
And they've made a proposal, but I believe Todd is not exactly in agreement with that, and so that's something that needs to be discussed further.
Okay,
So that will be worked out with you guys.
Christian, you had,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to, that would be, the decommissioning bond typically is based on the decommissioning cost analysis. So the cost of the removal, once Todd is able to verify what we've proposed, then the decommissioning bond or the letter of credit would be based on that value.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
okay, but you, Christian, you haven't proposed anything yet, or because you're waiting to hear back from Todd on the cost analysis? Decommissioning?
It's in the plan, John. That's what
Oh,
John Morelli asked me to kind of look at. So we'll look at that and then get back to the board and to Christian.
okay, but you first got to come up with the cost analysis before you come up with the security,
Yes.
Well, they have a-
financial security.
Yeah, we're just gonna verify it and then agree, with John Mancuso and the boards,
Okay,
Okay.
okay, do I have a second? Oh, anything else, John
No,
Morelli? For tabling?
I didn't have anything else other than,
Anybody else?
Well, I just wanted to add that when we come up with options for the landscaping, I would like to see the width, not just the height, but the width of the trees as planted and as mature. That would help a lot, I think.
sure.
Okay, Jody, did you, okay. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
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 Okay, Amber, do you have anything? No, she can't hear me.
I'm good. Thank you. I like the idea of the distance as well. So I like that. Thank you for bringing that up in between.
Okay, Jody or Christian, do you have any questions?
No,
No.
thank you. Thanks for hearing us. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll be in touch with Shelley in the morning to schedule a meeting with you folks so we can come up with some trees.
Okay. Kristen,
Nothing for me. Thank you.
okay.
Sally,
Any
if you
other-
need help with Zoom, just let me know to set it
Okay.
up.
Any other business?
Shelley, do you need something with times and dates available to help you schedule? I mean, there's a couple of times during the week that I'm not available, but generally I am, but I'm sure Don has a much busier schedule than I do. Would it be helpful for us to send you something? Does that make sense?
I like puzzles.
Sally, if you want tomorrow, I could help you with figuring out how to use Doodle.
Oh, there you go. Doodle would be nice.
And then you send it all out and everybody else picks the dates and then you don't have to do any magic puzzles.
Great.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good
Have a good
night.
night, everybody.